Okay, so welcome back, everybody. Now, today we're going to be demystifying the science of pain relief, stress management, and healing through the ancient practice of reflexology and touch. Now, today's smart guest is Njideka, who is joining us to help us understand and learn about this ancient and wonderful holistic approach to healing. Now, welcome to Sisterhood Smarts, Njideka. How are you?
Thank you for having me. It's great to be here to be able to share information with your audience. I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure and an honor to have you on. And what we like to do over here is just lay the foundation just so that,
Mm-hmm.
because you never know who's listening. We may have those who are adepts, novices, experts, and those who are just beginners and don't know much about the topic. So we like to lay the foundation right from the beginning. So I think to kick off things, let's start with your perspective, because I know you have a unique perspective to healing. So your perspective on what reflexology is and how it works in the healing of pain and stress.
Oh, that's an excellent question. First of all, let me just start off with the definition. Okay, reflexology is the art and science of working specific reflex and pressure point areas known as nerve endings on the hands, feet, and ears.
Mhm.
And one of the things I do when I explain reflexology is to think about, if you ever look at a chart of the anatomy and look at the nervous system, you'll see how all the nerve endings are in the top of your head and they run straight through your body, ending in your hands, your feet, and your ears. And these nerve endings are connected to the body systems. And
Mhm.
so there are specific locations of your body systems and their nerve and connection found on the hands and feet. So let me break that down so we talk about it in lay language.
Mhm.
One of the things I usually, when I'm explaining reflexology, I talk about the fact that if you ever think about, say, in your house, the electricity, and all of a sudden the electricity goes off and you go to the circuit breaker and you flip the switch and electricity comes back on. And if it doesn't come back on, then you have to call an electrician to come in and they may say it's something wrong with the wiring. Well, that's the same concept in terms of how reflexology works. What happens is, what we do is, because the nerve endings are connected to the brain, which is the body's communication center. So if there's a blockage in the nerve ending, the energy can't flow, the message doesn't flow. So what a reflexologist does is they work and stimulate that nerve ending to remove the blockages or anything that's related to that's causing pain, so communication can happen. So it's the same concept. It's like what an electrician would do in connecting the wires. So we connect the nervings, which are the wires of the body. So that's like the concept in terms of how reflexology works.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's a really good explanation because I like that you mentioned, you gave us a broader scope because when people use the word reflexology, I think our mind always goes to the feet. We don't go in depth like you have explained that it's like a highway, like a super connection.
Yes.
And as you were talking, I was thinking about an exhibition that we have here in Europe. It's called Coppervelten, and they show
Mm-hmm.
you. It's called the body works. And when you're talking about the nerves and how delicate they are, I was thinking about how they look like little silver, like a web, like a silver.
Yes.
It's so soft. So I was thinking about how delicate your work is when you mentioned the nerves and how they're like trillions of them and they look like
Mm-hmm.
little silky threads. That
Yes.
so fragile. And I was thinking perhaps you can walk us through how these healing is happening behind the skin. We only see the outside manifestation of an illness or a pain or a swelling or a bump or whatever, but we don't think of what's happening within, internally. And we just say things like, this person's getting on my nerves.
Yes.
Of course, there are like trillions of them, a lot of nerves to be triggered and touched, and but walk us through this a little bit.
Okay, let me give an example that might be real helpful if you think about it. Let's look at, I use a real easy example. Your elbow and the funny bone in your elbow, and if you hit it, so what would be the first thing you do when you hit that bone on the elbow?
Ouch.
Exactly. What you're going to do is
go like,
what you're going to do is what you said, a verbal response. It can be nice and it can be not so nice. So as soon as you hit it, verbal message goes straight up the nerve and into the brain. Trauma, stress. Then what's the next thing you're going to do?
The next thing you're going to do, probably you'll start thinking about it, or you start to think how to respond, or looking, focusing. When something hits you, you tend to look at it and start focusing on that area, all the attention goes there, right?
Usually what happens, you're going to put your hand on that area and start rubbing it.
Exactly. Yeah. All the focus goes there. That's what I mean. It becomes the center of attention. Yeah.
So what you're going to do is you're going to start rubbing. As soon as you put your hand on that area to rub it, message then goes up the nerve and into the brain. Release the body's natural pain relievers to the area that's in stress, which is releasing endorphins, which are your body's natural healers. And so that's the process, and that's the concept of what a reflexologist is doing when you come in pain and you need to have the relief of the pain. We're going to stimulate that nerve ending to send the body's natural pain relievers to that area to relax, relieve the pain, improve circulation, or remove toxins or impurities. Whatever is in need of, the nerve endings are communicating to the brain what that area is in need of. And all we do is reflex or assist the nerve ending in getting the message to the brain so the brain can respond with its natural relief.
Wow. Interesting. Because that explains why, when you go for a massage, and I know there are two very different areas, but when you go for a massage, they will tell you that, you're tense here, or, they'll go to specific pressure points, right? Mm-hmm. Now, I was looking at, at what reflexology is used for, and what kept coming up in my study was releasing stress and toxins, as well as pain. But, I keep thinking that, when you talk to people, people think of the outside. Toxins, okay, I need to flush it out, blow my nose, pee it out, or, flush it out. They think about flushing out. But with reflexology, the toxins and the stress is being relieved, but you may not necessarily be seeing it tangibly, So people tend to think, I'm not, do you know where I'm going with this? Like, I'm not seeing it. But long term, there's enough evidence that shows that, when people look at medical records, they can see that there are toxins are gone, the pain is gone, the knots and is gone, but I know this is a question that comes up when I tell people I've read about it. I've seen some of the research behind it. It's really fascinating. And you work in this field. Yeah.
One of the things that people don't understand, which kind of leads into when you open up in terms of me talking about reflexology and touch. Mm-hmm. One of the things that when we start talking about our health problems, our aches and our pains and all of that, we don't connect two important things, and that's pain and stress. So you have to look at the pain-stress connection. You don't have pain without stress, and you don't have stress without pain. The two go hand in hand. So in addressing what you just asked, one of the things when a person goes to a doctor, they're going to the doctor for one thing and one thing only. That's called, I'm in pain and I want relief from pain. That's what I'm coming to you for. Now think about that. When you're going to a store to buy something, you know exactly what you want to buy and you go to the store and buy it. So switch that and say, I'm going to the doctor to do what? Buy pain relief, and that's what I'm here for. I want pain relief. But the missing piece that doctors don't utilize deals with the fact of the first thing they're going to tell you is we got to take some tests to find out what it is, because I don't know what it is. But in the meantime, here's a prescription for your pain. But I don't even know what's causing the pain, but I've given you a prescription. The missing piece, when I see my clients, one of the things that I do is I use what I call the power of touch. And the first touch is listening.
Oh.
See, when we think of touch, we only think of touch from a physical, but touch comes all kind of ways: physical, mental, spiritual, and emotionally. And you have to understand. So when a client comes to me, I want to hear what's going on, because the one thing I'm looking for is what is that stress factor that is the contributor to the pain. Once I hear what the stress factor is to the contributor of pain, now we move to let's relieve the pain. And that's why I do what I call relieve pain first before treatment. And that begins with the first touch step called listening. Then comes the hands-on, which is the reflexology. And with the reflexology that's working to relieve the pain, because the information I have now is I know the stress that's connected to the pain, which allows me to be able to work effectively in relieving the area that you have in pain. But all pain, or let me say the area of the pain, is not the cause of the pain. It's just the outlet. So that's what reflexologists work on, relieving the outlet. Because whenever you have toxicity inside the body, it normally would come out through the normal channels of elimination. But if it doesn't get to that area, whatever area you have in your body, say the back starts aching or the knees start aching or I got pain in my shoulder, that is nothing but the toxins trying to find a way to come out the body, and it can't, because that's not an area of elimination. Ooh. That's the focal concept of reflexology and how it works.
Look at that. This has got me thinking about psychosomatic symptoms. You know, how you have, even teeth, your gums may be paining, but it has nothing. You have perfect teeth, perfect gums, but pain manifests in the strangest places. As I guess it comes back to what you said in the beginning, the nerves, and the interconnectedness. So all this tension and stress, as you mentioned now, can decide where the body decides where to deposit this pain and stress. Am I getting it, or?
Exactly. Because remember now, see, here's the other missing piece about stress. Stress is always something that is happening outside of the body that we bring inside. And we never connect it. That's why I say I'm always listening for the stress factors, because whatever was happening outside and you brought it in and start internalizing it, that's how you start creating the pain factors of stress going to areas of the body as a form of release. Now, let me share an example. Say, for example, you went to work today and all of a sudden you got what's called a pink slip. We're letting people go. Now, there's several ways you can handle that. If you start internalizing all of the negative possibilities that's associated with me no longer having a job, what is that going to do for me? It's going to bring my body's defense mechanisms down. And all of a sudden, my energy level is down. And all of a sudden, my mind is flooded with what? All of these negative thoughts that's filtering throughout my body in a negative way. And now I'm creating a stress, pain, connection factor inside of my body. Remember, because what? I got something outside I brought inside. And if we don't work on releasing that, it winds up manifesting into defined illnesses. And see, we never ever talk about or think about what was happening right at the time I started having pain. See, if we don't focus on that, it manifests into something big, which results in what's known as chronic pain, that people have all of a sudden adapted to being, this is my life. I'm in pain for the rest of my life. I have to grin and bear it.
Yeah, but Njideka, what is really, I think what is really difficult about what you're saying, and maybe difficult is not the right word, but what is really troubling or concerning is how many stress factors are out here. Some are just normalized things that we've normalized as just work culture, but it's actually stressful on the body because it's not a natural way of doing things. The body does not recognize the way we do certain things, right? But we have normalized certain behaviors as this is just how work is, right? And then there is the outside forces. I'm just thinking of all these possible stress factors that are going undiagnosed, because now we're talking about, stress as something external coming in that we should already diagnose through the first touch, which you mentioned is listening. So listening to the body, listening to the cues, right? So I'm just wondering right now, how do you approach the prevention mechanism of it, because I think, in order to do something, kind of like you have to have the knowledge and the awareness, of what's happening. But if it's normalized, I don't think we're even looking sometimes. Do you know what I mean?
I understand exactly what you're saying because we are conditioned.
Yeah, that's the word. Exactly. Yeah.
We have forgotten that we are all unique. How do I put this? We are very unique as a people. And when I say unique as a people, we forget that the body that we are in the physical form, is created to heal itself naturally. But we forget that piece. And when we forget that piece, we get caught up with all of the things which I call the illusions that our eyes see. And we accept that as being our reality. And what we have to learn how to get back to is understanding and reconnecting with our body. And when I say that, I always use an example with my clients in terms of, how do you see your body? Do you see your body as a temple, or do you see your body as a warehouse? As a warehouse, what do? You store stuff and put anything in there, anything goes. If it's a temple, it's something sacred that you take care of. And so in order for you to get to the preventive state, you have to understand and value your body as well as you value who you are. So what we have to do is get back to giving value to who we are. And once you do that, now you're on the road to being able to take back control of your life from all of the outside externals that you bring in. And that's one of the steps that we have to work on. And another way to kind of help your listeners understand this. Let me change it to this. When I'm talking to my clients, I tell them that the machine that is an exact replica of your body is the automobile. The automobile is designed exactly like the human body, and it operates exactly the same way. When you go purchase a car, and all of a sudden they tell you, X number of miles you need to do a maintenance or something like that, that's prevention. You do it. If all of a sudden something goes wrong with your automobile and you start hear clanking or some lights come on, you automatically take it to the mechanic to be about repairing it. When you take it to the mechanic, because it's a mechanical machine, the mechanic is automatically going to know and connect what it is you're talking about to bring about the repair. Guess what? We take our bodies to the doctor operating the same way we do with our automobiles and a mechanic. So we walk into the doctor, well, I got an ache here, and we expect the doctor to know exactly what's going on. Now you have to change that. And when you're with your doctor and your body, it's about you and the doctor working collectively and cooperatively together in resolving. It can't be a one-way street.
No.
It has to be a connection between you and the doctor. That's why I say listening is so important, because if you understand the listening, if a person's in pain and they're able to start talking about all the things that's connected that's happening in their lives that could be connected with the stress that they're experiencing, that's a relief. They are relieved by what? The touch that happened to what? I get to hear myself talk about what's going on. I've released that stress factor. That's all it is. And what is happening? The body is now, as you're talking about it, you are releasing it. The body is now preparing to do what it needs to do to relieve you of the pain and the stress. But we have to understand that the role of the doctor, and doctors need to understand this, is to assist the body in the healing process. That's all we do. We're not the healers. The healer is you. It's inside of you. We help you get to that point of being able to heal yourself naturally. And as I say, medication free.
You know what I like about what you've said? These are solutions that even a 13-year-old can do by themselves. And this is what's powerful because, Njideka, we know the times we're in. Not everyone might be able to run to a doctor and say, or be able to even, find a doctor who understands their body and what they need. And you are giving such a powerful tool because, as you were talking, I was thinking I have a Christian background. So sometimes, I was thinking about the power of the word, of spoken word.
Yes, ma'am.
And in the beginning was the word, and the word was God. And, this is what you're saying, that you can speak to your bones and to your body, and you can speak life and healing. And this is so powerful, listeners. She said this is the first touch.
Yes.
Sound is touch.
Yes. Yes.
This is still playing in my it's 20 minutes late. I'm still on that point. I haven't moved past.
It's basic. It's very basic. We make stuff so complicated. And the only reason we do that, because of just like you said, when you opened up in terms of how we're so connected with everything going on. And once you get in that connection of everything going on, you lose the essence of who you are.
Ooh.
That's the problem. We have to get back to feeling empowered. We have to empower ourselves and accept that it's all right. If things aren't going well, it's all right. It's that we don't have to turn it into a crisis. We don't have to make it more than what it is. Because guess what? It will pass. It doesn't last with you forever. So whatever is going on right now, it's going to pass. It's going to become what? Tomorrow. It's going to become what? A yesterday experience. We've got to look at life like that. We've got to look at who we are like that. And that's what changes things and makes it so much better. Even in the midst of all the stuff that's going on right now in the world, a lot of it doesn't even relate to us, but we get into it. A lot of it is not even any concern of ours, but we get into it. And when we do that, we create problems for ourselves internally that wind up becoming illnesses.
You know what I love about how you are speaking as a doctor? I've always known this. I've always known that the doctor's words and attitude towards healing is so important, because there's some doctors who say, oh, I don't think so, and that it leaves you more depressed, in a worse state than when you walked in. But imagine if someone walked in to your your session, and you are already speaking these positive things. They're already healing even before you start. And I think that's so important for doctors to remember this. Even as you guide your patients, it's important to have this kind of encouraging attitude that, it will pass, you'll get better, because it helps, for the psyche,
Exactly. Because one of the things I see, remember how life is set up for what? In twos. It's either a yes or a no, a yin or a yang, a positive or a negative. So if my client is coming with me in pain, that right there means what? I have problems. I'm suffering with something. So when they come to me in pain, I have to see them in a whole different light. I see you well. I don't see you in pain. But I have to be about saying that in terms of re-encouraging and letting that energy flow in terms of you are well. You are healthy. And if you're not seeing this right now, or you're not feeling this right, this is what we are working toward. You are healthy. You are well. And the other thing I want to stress too, that's very important. I wrote the book, Reflexology Today, A Family Affair. And when I wrote that book, I was on my way to China to continue studying reflexology. But I had a reason for writing that book. And when I got to China, what happens in China is that the doctor spends anywhere between an hour to an hour and a half with the patient before a treatment is even started. And the reason is because they are looking to find out what is the cause, so that when they find the cause, then they bring all of the family members in. Because now what you have as an illness, we found the solution so that all the other family members do not have to have what you had. Because one of the things that's very important in the healing process, it is a family affair. When I got to China and saw that, because when I wrote the book specifically because I felt at least one member in a household should know some basic reflexology points and techniques for relieving pain and stress, because it's a family affair. If one family member becomes ill, the whole family needs to come together and participate in the healing process using the power of touch, be it a kind word, be it a thoughtful energy sent forth, being a touch, or just being there. Using some form of touch starts the healing process.
I think when you were talking about healing being a family affair, the first word that came to mind was epigenetics and inherited illnesses. Now, I know there's a lot of scientific research out there that says that it's not really inherited. We just inherit the same diets, same lifestyles, and all that stuff, right? But I think we do inherit some level of genetics, and that could, respond to the environment, to foods, and different things differently, just because it just is what it is, right? And so, what would you say about I'm still on like prevention, because it's a family affair, but what can we do as together as a family pre I'm not saying want to attract illness or pain or stress, but we live in a world that has environmental factors and we interact with people, places, and things. So what can we do preventively as a family to ensure we have a harmonious kind of balanced health?
That's an excellent question, because one of the things that I do in my practice, and it's very important to me, is the cultural connection to healing. It's missing. And we have to understand that we all have a culture and we all have a healing culture. And when you start looking at the cultural connection to healing, a lot of times it does not connect with the conventional way of healing. It's put into play when we start talking about conventional medicine, because conventional medicine doesn't look at the cultural connection. And I say that to say, give you a prime example. In the melanin people, as it relates to hypertension, you're going to look at the fact that it's not about the medication for hypertension. Hypertension is a result of diet. And we've got to look at the food, the genetic foods that we eat that aren't compatible with our genes. So which means that if you have hypertension and you know that you're consuming a lot more salt than necessary, and all of a sudden your pressure rises, that you have tapped into doing what? Feeding the negative side of your genetics. And how is the genes responding? In hypertension as a form of what? Trying to release those toxins and impurities from the body, which winds up in hypertension, which is a health hazard. It's about understanding. If I have hypertension, that means I need to be studying what are the exact foods I can and cannot eat that will be a contributor to elevating my pressure. It's as basic as that. It's just little small things. It's a cultural connection that we have to understand. Another, if you're talking about the immune system and the various illnesses associated with the immune system, you know that is what? A stress factor. You have to know that you have to understand your stress triggers. You have to know what's going to trigger your nervous system to put you in a state that all of a sudden you're having autonomic illnesses related to the nervous system based on stress. So it's little things like that. It's little small things that we don't think about that we can use as our means for prevention.
Wow, that is so interesting, because I'm just thinking at the cultural connection, it's almost non-existent.
Yes.
I was just thinking at what is it as a family you all do? We celebrate holidays together. You know what I mean? There are things we do, but that's not cultural lifestyle, daily cultural lifestyle with the focus, the awareness that you are maintaining balance, with your body and your mind and your spirit. You know what I mean? It's not a
Exactly.
holistic approach to daily life from a cultural.
It's very important. And
Mhm.
one of the ways you do that, here we go again, power of
Mhm.
touch.
Mhm.
Find some older members in your family and spend some time talking to them about what they did as children. How did they heal this? Listen to those stories, because that's your cultural connection. It's still a part of you. Just because it worked yesterday, don't say it can't work today, because it can.
It
That's
does.
your cultural connection. We
Mhm.
don't talk about that. But do you think a young person being able to sit at the feet of some of the older members of their family and just listening? Oh, that doesn't sound, but try it and see the results. That's how you start building your cultural healing program and putting that in place. Because we had it. What worked yesterday still works today. It may take a longer time, but that's another one of our problems. We move too fast.
That's true.
We need to
Yes.
slow down. I mean,
Mhm.
what's the rush? Slow down. Think about it. Most people don't even sit down at a table and eat. Everybody's eating on the run. Look at what that does to your body.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
not even chewing your food thoroughly for it to go through the normal channels of digestion. And then you wonder why you have problems. Though it's little, small, simple things, but we make it so complicated. Why are we rushing? What are we always in a hurry for? If it's for you, it's going to be there. If it's not, you weren't supposed to have it. Why rush?
I think this is seasoned women talking. I'm a seasoned woman too, Njideka. I know what you're saying. I'm like, I think we've lived for a minute. We know if it's yours, it comes to you effortlessly.
Yes. Yes.
And if it eludes you, it's your protection. We've looked back and
Exactly.
we're like, "Oh, I dodged the bullet."
Yes, exactly. But we're always rushing. We're in this rush thing. And the rush is stress.
Yeah.
That's what we don't understand. The rushing is stress. Slow down. And guess what? When you slow down, you may start enjoying life, and then you'll start enjoying who you are.
Yeah, I like what you've said, and I usually call the elderly, the elders, the wise ones, because I've come to learn that they have so much wisdom in their head, in their mind, and it comes through just conversation when they're chilling and just telling you stuff, and sometimes you're like, oh, what did she just say? And when you try it, 90% of the time, it works.
And the
Yeah,
thing, and,
it
and
works.
and what people don't realize
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to, like you say, your elders,
Mm.
your wise members in the family, you
Mm-hmm.
give them a healing by just listening to them, because nobody pays them any attention. And for them to be the center of attention, talking about what they used to do, that is so healing for them. And
Wow.
we need to understand that. That's why they're in the position of elders. No matter what it is, they're there because what? They have life experiences. And we need to start talking about our life experiences. And I mean, not that they're all going to be good and not that they're all going to be bad, but we need to start talking about it so that we can start putting our healing in place.
Yeah, but you did say not all of it is good or bad, but that too you mentioned earlier, just speaking even about your trauma, your healing, or the pain on your knee is healing. You've already told the mind through your spoken word that it's time to release. So whether it's good or bad, like you said, we're still helping in the healing just by listening. They're now releasing that pain or whatever is not
Exactly.
so good, per se,
Exactly.
in the
Exactly.
speaking. This is so important,
It,
Njideka. Think of
it's
all the elderly
it's
people just
basics.
in homes looking at the window.
Yes.
I'm sorry to put it that way, but here in the Nordics, we're based in the Nordics. They actually have programs where they invite people, they ask people to volunteer to go and speak and visit the elderly
Yes.
because they're by themselves. What a
Yes.
waste of a resource, the
Yes.
knowledge and the experience and all the things that they have.
And let me turn this around.
Mm-hmm.
The most stressed out people right now are
Mm-hmm.
our youth. Our young people are stressed to the max right now. And you know why?
Mm-hmm.
Because we have not sat down and given them tools to release stress. We may go, okay, I'm stressed. Well, let me go get a massage or let me go get my hair done or let me go. Those are outlets that we use to release stress. But we haven't shared that to help young people understand how they too need outlets to release stress. That's one of the things I do. I have a program that I
Mm-hmm.
teach young people how to do reflexology as a way to relieve stress and pain.
Mm-hmm.
And to your listeners,
Mm-hmm.
if you want a reflexologist in your family, the best person to teach is a young person. They make the best reflexologists.
Do they?
The fact of the matter, because you've given them, because see, one of the things that young people have
Mm-hmm.
a problem with is touch, because nobody touches them in any
Oh,
form or fashion. They are very afraid of touch.
I've seen that. When you
That
go to hug them,
yes,
they go like this. And
they
then
they
they remember, and then they're like, I've seen mothers try to hug
yes,
their children, and they wonder why their kids don't want to be hugged.
because we have not taught them touch. And remember, I say touch begins with what? Listening. We don't
Wow.
listen to our young people.
Is
We're
that what they're communicating?
always telling them what to do. We never take the time to listen to them.
Is that what they're communicating when their parents are trying to hug them and they're going like this?
You didn't touch me. The fact of the matter is, they don't feel your energy of connecting. They don't feel the connection. So if I don't feel the connection, how can you touch me? If you don't spend time to even listen to me. Remember I said the first form of touch is listening. If
Yeah,
if
I
you
get
listen
it.
if
Yeah.
you listen to a young person, they're more inclined to be receptive to you. We never think about it like that. Oh, we know how
No,
to.
I'm telling you, Njideka, parents don't think of because I've heard it more than once. They say, oh, they're just teenagers, they're going through a phase. But now the way you're putting, it's a different perspective, you know.
Very different because of the fact that we are what? Always rushing, always doing it. And
Mm-hmm.
when you become an adult, what do? All of a sudden, you get in a box, a structure. We do
Mm-hmm.
it this way. I'm an adult, and this is how we're supposed to do it. We forget that at one time we were a child too. And we forget that child experience. And we all of a sudden see children. You're supposed to do this, 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 and this. And what have we done? Stripped them of the creativity of just being a child, no matter how silly it is. And the other thing I always tell my clients,
Mm-hmm.
even if you don't agree with what your child says, give them the opportunity to share their feelings and their thoughts. Give them that opportunity, and then you talk about it. Then you can bring them back to your way if it's something that is way off in terms of where they are. But that's where they are. And we've got to learn how to start respecting young people and people in general where they are. not how we want them to be, not how we think that they should be.
Now, I have a question. Is that also, does that have something to do with a mirror? I have this kind of understanding that people can only give what they have, or sometimes you can't give kindness if you don't have kindness within you to give. You know what I mean? You're who you are. We are products of our upbringing, our environment, the social, the school
Yes.
education. A lot of things have shaped us to make us who we are. And so we are who we are to a certain degree, and we give what we can, how we know best. So I don't know where the breakdown, it seems like there has been a breakdown between the parents and the children, um, in terms of connecting, knowing that, like you said, we were once also children and we knew what our parents were. It's like every generation has a different approach to things. And so we should have learned better, known better. But what is going on? Why is it that every generation has some kind of difficulty communicating with the next generation, if you know what I mean? Because, we were also young and we were like, oh, my parents.
But think about it. It's nothing new under the sun. Each generation has their own time in terms of how they do stuff. But see, when we get to be adults, we're locked in our ways of thinking. So what young people are doing, that is so absurd. How can they do? But you did the same thing. It's just they're doing it in a different way. But you did the exact same thing. And the parents before you saw you just like you're seeing your young people. Yeah. And so we've got to understand. I mean, I love young people from the standpoint of just listening to them. I mean, you'd be surprised at how they think.
Oh, yeah.
And when you just listen to them, okay, fine. And this is the other thing I say for my generation. I'm talking to my generation right now. The missing piece is you're dealing to help you understand young people of today. This is a generation that you cannot talk about what you did yesterday and this is what you should be doing today. You know what they're looking for from you? Where's your action? Show me how you did it. Don't tell me what I'm supposed to do. Show me how you did it. This is a generation that's looking for the action. They want to see the steps. Because you know why? Because they are the next generation to improve upon what it is you did. Because that's their contribution. It's not do it like I did it. This is what we did. What we need to do is share. It goes back to when I said talking to the elders. Start sharing, because guess what? You know the pitfalls that they're going to face. And what you need to do is be the support base to help them get over the hurdle, because you know what's on the other side of the hurdle because you've been there. That's how we need to be relating to our young people, because guess what? They are what? Our future teachers, leaders, and healers. How do you, and what that is nothing but, for my generation, it's about passing the baton, not taking it to the grave with you, like the generation above us did. They took it to the grave. Our baton, we need to be passing it on and sitting back in our rocking chairs, supporting them and encouraging them in their growth and development to create a newer reality.
And passing the baton is something I see a lot of I'll just say boomers, Gen X's, have a difficulty doing, and through their actions, they seem like they see the younger ones, the alphas and the Gen Zs, as not ready, but the thing is, they're the ones, what, you have to make them ready. It's not optional, like you said. They are the future, and your tomorrow is not promised. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So, it should be like there should be a sprint to making them
there
ready.
It is. Yeah. And what is, you're touching In a sprint, what you got to pass the baton. You're touching. Everybody is. It's about working together collectively and cooperatively, using the power of touch to heal. That's the basic.
Yeah.
That's what we have to start understanding.
Yeah.
That's our power base.
But I also want to mention something that I have observed, and I think, in all fairness, there are amazing boomers also out there, loving, incredible grandmas and grandpas and elderly people who are more than willing to share their wisdom, knowledge, resources, but they're also young people who are literally just not interested. They almost like they want it given to them on a silver platter. And I know that may appear, because I've seen the parents almost begging them, I want to give you this, I want to teach you, come learn. So that's what I'm saying. What is the disconnect? You know how sometimes you wonder, you're saying the same thing. You want this and I'm giving you this, but that connection is not being made, whereby you get the resources, the knowledge, the training, and you get to be, you take the baton, So I'm wondering, what is that friction? Because when you watch
the friction, you think about it, the friction is what? If you have never taught a young person how to learn and grow, and you gave them everything, what can you expect? They don't know any better. Because most people don't want to deal with struggle. And if you don't deal with struggle, you can't grow. And that now you have a group of young people that what? You have stunt their growth and development by giving them everything. And then you get upset and say, they don't want it. Because guess what? You never took the time to listen to them in terms of what they want, not what you want for them. And if they come up with some things that they want, look at how you together can make that happen. That's the missing piece. That's the piece.
Yeah, because that right there is what I observe. It's the concept of the lone wolf parents who've been cleaning, removing all the obstacles from their children, and then now they're grown-ups and they don't know how to do some very simple tasks, and they're like, how? Yeah, so that's the missing link.
There's got to be some struggle, and struggle is not bad. It's for growth and development. It's called a life lesson. We've got to be able to be there supporting our young people as they learn their particular life lesson, and let them go through it, but be there for them. Don't try to do it for them. Don't try, when you see the struggles coming, don't try to take it on for them. Be there to assist them in the growth process. And you'll be surprised what happens when you assist them. They will be so humble in ways you could not possibly imagine. I have seen it in terms of young people who have, you're sitting and you see what roadblock they're getting ready to go through, but you have to grit your teeth and let them go through it, but be there for them as they're going through it.
Yeah, I like that. I like that explanation, because of course the human response, because we know where it's headed. You're like, oh my God, woo, I see it coming, is to jump in and want to help. And I think what you're saying is there is a thin, or should I say a fine line between help and hindrance, where you are, you're not helping really, you're hindering their learning, their discipline, their progress, their development, but you think it is help, if you know what I mean. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
And then, yeah. Oh my God. And now all this, I want you to tie it into, again, the family healing, because it took me back there, because and now if we could just look at, since we came into the young ones, the young generation, and then the more seasoned generations, and the connection. Is there something they can do using reflexology and the healing of touch, like just an example of what these families can do to kind of cut through this, whatever it is that is, creating the disconnect.
That's one of the things that I put in my book in terms of the family affair. How to have what we can call a reflexology touch night.
Touch night?
Yeah, reflexology touch night. All the families sitting around like in a circle together, and everybody has each other's hand, and you're working on a hand in a circle, or you're working on the feet in the circle, and just let go. And that can be what we call, where we have like a reflexology touch night. And you may not know exactly what you're doing, because let me share with you what I mean when I say that. Everybody listening to this presentation has done reflexology, and you don't know that you've done it. There's a little thing when you were a child, or even you as a parent to a child, there's a little thing called this little piggy. And if you remember that little thing, this little piggy went to the market, and you're doing it on the toes, and you're circling the toes and moving the toes back and forth. That's nothing but reflexology. You're stimulating the nerve endings for what? The baby to calm down and relax. The baby may start laughing. The baby may go to sleep on you. That calm down. That right there is what? The power of touch. Little things like that. I mean, we can get into the specifics of how reflexology, but I always tell people, here's an example right here, like with the palm of your hand, and you take your thumb and you take your thumb and just bend your thumb up and down like this. And on the palm, just walk the palm of your hand with your thumb going across the palm from the wrist all the way to the base of your fingers, and just rub the palm like that. And then on the back of your hand, take all 4 fingers and just do what you call a circular motion on the back of the hand. This is what's called the emergency reflexology stress relief. And you can do it yourself. Just do that on your own hands, or do it to a family member or a friend, and somebody who's getting really upset. That can calm them down. Little things like that. And all you're doing is what? Touching to stimulate the nerve and to reduce stress and pain. Very basic.
Oh my God, I love that. Yeah, very simple and easy to learn, people. Everybody can do it. And can you imagine doing that as you listen to the stories and you're just doing this to each other? That is so cool. And when you're talking about us as children, I remembered when we were kids, when you fell down with your bicycle and you got injured, and then your mom just kissed your knee, was bleeding and all, and you're like, oh, I'm good.
That's the first form of healing touch. And what did it do? It released the endorphins to go what? Bring relief to that area that's in pain.
Yeah, she just touched it. She said, oh, what happened? Where? And then she said, oh, here. Okay,
that's it.
It's gone.
That is it. See, we have it inside of us, but we don't realize it. And we take it for granted, that. But it's powerful. That's the power that we have. And that's why I say it's so important to connect the power of touch to healing. And once we understand our power inside, opens the doors for us to heal mentally, physically, emotionally, and I throw in financially. And the reason why I say that is because the number one health contributor to all health illnesses is finance.
Yeah.
That's the reason people go to work. They don't go to work for the job. It's for the health benefits.
Yeah. Even relationships, fighting, quarreling, it's over the bills and money,
Exactly. Finance is the big stress factor in terms of contributing to illnesses. And once we understand that, and I share this with your listeners to understand, you cannot have health without wealth, and you can't have wealth without health. The both go hand in hand, because guess what? It's your birthright to have both. It's not supposed to be separate. You're supposed to have both.
Yes, you are. And I think that's the perfect place to end this. And Dr. Njideka, thank you so much. I felt like you just opened up, our neural pathways to remembering things that we did so intuitively, or our parents did, and we didn't think much about it. But you've brought it back to the surface, and I think that's really, really cool. I think so. I think I really enjoyed this conversation. And before we head out, I'd like you to have the last word. Is there anything that you'd like to add, or something that we left out before?
Okay, the first thing I want to say, remember I talked about the cultural connection to healing? There's a cultural connection in the African culture in terms of when you come to someone's home for the first time, you bring a gift. And I have a gift for you and your listening audience. I have put together it's a download of the various techniques you can use to relieve stress. And all you have to do is go to touchology.reflexology.com and download. That is my gift to you for tips on relieving stress. The next thing I share with your listeners, if you heard anything in the conversation I have just shared, and you have any questions that you would like to know about relieving pain and stress using the power of touch, I encourage you to go to my website, FocusOnHealing.com, and in the contact, write down your questions. I do answer. I'll get back to you with any questions you may have related to pain and stress. Go to FocusOnHealing.com. And my closing remark to everyone is that reconnect and understand that when you wake up in the morning, the first form of touch that you need to be about giving yourself as well as the universe is being thankful. Give thanks. That's upon rising in the morning. And then the second thing you need to do is when you are after giving thanks, remember that throughout the day, find a way to give some form of touch, be it a smile, be it the two most powerful words in the language. Thank you is a form of touch. Just being able to tap somebody on their back to say, I care, because it's the power of touch that heals all.
Oh, thank you so much. That was really, really good. And as you're talking about the thank you and, being thankful and, the kind of thing you should do when you get up, I just wanted to add, when you're talking about eating on the run, I know I'm going back to some point in the conversation. I couldn't help thinking about not giving gratitude for your meal. You have to take time to bless your meal, give gratitude for it, be thankful before you eat, you take it in. And that came up when you mentioned gratitude and the spirit of gratitude.
Gratitude is the foundation for healing. Gratitude opens doors for everything once we understand that.
Yeah. Okay. So to all our listeners, thank you for stopping by. That was today's conversation on healing, reflexology, and the power of touch. And this was our smart sister, Njideka and Olatunde. I want to remind you all that all her information, including her website, her links, and her book, will be in the description. So I want to invite you all to have a look. Go into the description section, have a look, snoop around, see what floats your boat. And then, feel free to connect. And yeah, it's for real. She does respond and she's pretty cool. So go ahead and reach out if something, tweaks or, tweaks your interest. And that's it for today. Until next time, goodbye.
Evenings come, stars are twinkle, dinner on the stove. We talk about our dreams and plans, the future we both hope.